You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
This is Jim Cornette, pro wrestling legend and administrator of JimCornette.com and the Jim Cornette Experience on MLW every week, and you are listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show and Angry Marks and all these people that are asking me all these questions that I'm answering with forthrightness and honesty.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're talking to Kurrgan, the Interrogator. You know, I had the pleasure a few years back when I was working for another show, Robert, talking to Bull Buchanan, and he was very much like you, very humble and appreciative of his time in the business, and he really, really enjoyed his time working with you, you know, getting going in the USWA. That's where you both won your tag team titles. I think, what, were you two-time champions in the USWA, if I remember right?
We were. I think we were, yeah.
So those were very special days for him. What was your thoughts on working with Bull?
Well, with Barry, he was awesome. He was. You know, I was like it was just overwhelming for me to be, you know, starting as a local. I'm from a small town in the country, Eastern Canada, and starting with my WWF career. It was a bit overwhelming. I didn't know really anybody there, you know. But then when I met my partners in Stanford, that's when I met Barry for the first time. I met Barry, Mike Halleck, and our commandant, Robin Smith, who was from South Africa. And we did hit it off. Barry is such an easygoing guy. Like I said, he's such a humble guy. Laid back, so nice, you know. And we did click, you know. And it was great having a partner, because he's such a great worker too. For a big guy his size, he's so agile. Stuff he could do was amazing. So having him as a tag partner was great. And it was great to having a great friend, you know, like him on the road, especially, you know, in Memphis. So we're there for so long, we didn't know if I was going to come home or not, you know. But having him there was great. You know, he was always supportive. And then we started our WWF career, you know, for those 2 years was golden. You know, it was, you know, I remember calling me the night before, you know, try to set up our rental cars before we go into the next city. And, you know, he has this drawing accent, you know, southern accent. Hi, Robert, how you doing? You know, it's awesome. And I just found out it was like a month ago, because I'm in friends on Facebook with him. He just retired from wrestling. And, and I wish we had, I mean, it sounds, all these years, you know, I wish we had some more time to work with each other again, you know, as a tag team before we retired. You know, I mean, he's so far away from Georgia, and I'm from Canada. You know, I mean, it's different lives, different paths. But I'm so happy for him now that he was able to do his last match, and he seems like he's very happy and has a family.
Did it on his terms.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I always thought that was an interesting dynamic, being Barry is from Georgia and you're from Canada, how they fit you all guys into being South African. So, well, you know, how difficult of a transition was that for you guys?
For me, it wasn't. Well, we didn't do the talk, right?
Right, it's true. It's true.
It was Robin, who's the South African. You know, we are from South Africa. You know, he had the accent. And, but even after a show, we did a taping somewhere, I forget what city it was. We were at a restaurant somewhere, and one of the fans came up to us. And, and then when you hear Barry talking, and of course, the guy clued in, hey, you're not from South Africa. And Barry, very quick, say, no, I'm from South Africa, you know, and, so the guy, you know, he got the point, and he went away. He didn't come back. So, no, I mean, I say I do have a, you know, at the time, I don't know about now, but I still have a French accent, so I could have got away with it, I suppose. You know, for some reason, I don't know, I do have an accent, meaning, you know, that can come from anywhere from, I don't know. But, no, it was fine, really. It was, you know, I mean, I wish I would have gone to South Africa to learn a little bit more about the whole, you know, the culture over there before we started the whole thing. Because it was kind of embarrassing, you know, we're from South Africa, but we've never been to the country, you know, so it was kind of weird. So it was fine.
No, Robert, I'd love for you to tell the story, but a lot of people who aren't as familiar with the background of your career don't know the story of how you became a dancing giant. Can you kind of enlighten our listeners on how that aspect of your character came out?
Well, at the time, this is back in 98. This is when it was with me and the Jackal in Kurrgan, you know, and there was a little period of time they wasn't sure what they wanted to do with me, what direction they wanted to go with me. And then it was WrestleMania. What WrestleMania was it? WrestleMania, the one with Michaels and Stone Cold and
Stone Cold.
Yeah, and it was in Boston. And that's where my wife was there. All the wrestlers' wives were there, and for that weekend. And it was after the event, after the WrestleMania. They had a post WrestleMania party, and so yeah, it was a dancing floor. It was a dance floor, and my wife loved to dance. I got home here when my wife danced, I danced with her. You know, all the time when we're invited at a wedding reception or whatnot, you know. And so, of course, the music came on, the music was on, and so all the women were dancing, but not the boys, which was kind of weird. And all the boys were sitting down, but all the wives, you know, the girlfriends were dancing. And so my wife Laura, she wanted to dance, and so of course she couldn't dance by herself, so I had to go dance with her. And I realized I was the only one dancing, the only guy dancing on the dance floor.
And nobody would ever notice you as the only guy out there, right?
No, it did stick out. I think Vince, and it's true that Vince saw me dancing on the dance floor. And all the boys were looking at me and laughing or something, I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. But Vince saw me, and he couldn't get that image out of his mind, apparently. And a few weeks later, I got this call at home from Vince Russo, which he never called. He never called. And I found that kind of odd. He'd always getting fired or something, I don't know. But, so I talked to Vince Russo, and he gave me that idea about the oddities. Now, this is the fun-loving oddities, the dancing. Just before that, we were part of the human oddities with the Jackal, right?
Right.
But the whole gimmick thing where this would when Vince Russo pitched it to me about dressing them as in tuxedos and singing Miss America, escorting Luna down the ramp, and me and John Silva, and the whole thing. And I was like, I wanted to say no, but I knew that it was not a cool idea to say no. That it was an opportunity for sure, and so I had to say yes. But I wasn't, in my heart, enough, being this heel monster, monster, one goofy giant singing and dancing, it wasn't my, thing to do. But I said yes. I took the opportunities. Maybe something good would come out of it. It'll keep me busy, obviously keep me working. I didn't want to get released or fired, so.
It pretty much destroyed any opportunity for future heel monster gimmicks in the WWF for you, though, right? In fact, it probably did. This was my last time with WWF. It was still an oddity, right? But it was fine, though. I wasn't really comfortable with it. It was awkward. I mean, obviously, singing Miss America. I had to learn the whole lyrics the whole day. It was in San Diego, right? I remember that day, and I had to learn this. I was nervous. It was pretty nerve-wracking. And walking down the ramp, I forget some of the lines. The whole point was just to be funny and stupid, right? So it worked, though. It got over, and the oddities got over, like I said, with the music, with the ICP. There were storylines with Sable, and Sable was over big time at the time too. Sure.
So that helped us. And it really did get over. So I was fine with it. We got work. I was happy. I got more comfortable with the whole role. But you're right. What can you do with a bunch of clowns? I think we're the biggest jobbers. We're jumping to Too Cool, to Too Much, all those guys. One of the biggest guys at the time was jobbing. We're just a bunch of nobody really took us seriously, right? So